Welcome to Level 4 of Verbal Advantage, and congratulations. Why are congratulations in order? Since you began listening, you have probably more than doubled your normal rate of vocabulary growth. You have also absorbed more useful information on language than most people learn in a year of college or several years on the job. At the rate you're proceeding, your verbal skills soon will match those of the most intelligent and successful people you know. So keep listening, and remember to review the material before moving ahead. 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 Here are the first 10 keywords in Level 4. Word 1. Provident. Provident. Thrifty. Economical. Saving or providing for future needs. Synonyms of provident include prudent, word 47 of Level 1, and frugal, word 35 of Level 2. Provident and the verb to provide both come from the same Latin root. One meaning of the verb to provide is to prepare for some anticipated condition in the future, as to provide for a rainy day. Provident means providing for the future, especially in the sense of saving money for some anticipated need. After the birth of their first child, Sam and Sarah vowed to be provident and start word 2, impute. impute. To charge or attribute, especially with a fault or misconduct. Lay the responsibility or blame upon. Ascribe. Assign. Unlike the verb to credit, which has a favorable connotation, and the verbs to assign and to ascribe, which are neutral, the verb to impute often has a negative connotation. According to the famous 18th century essayist and lexicographer Samuel Johnson, we usually ascribe good, but impute evil. To impute is to charge with something bad, attribute the blame for, lay the responsibility on. They imputed their fourth quarter losses to sagging sales and fluctuations in the stock market. Some critics impute the decline in verbal skills among young people today to watching too much television. The corresponding noun is imputation, a charge or accusation, the act of imputing, as company officials vigorously denied the imputation of mismanagement. Word 3. Astute. Astute. Shrewd. Clever. Perceptive. Discerning. Acute. Keenly aware. Quick-witted. More difficult synonyms of astute include sagacious, perspicacious, and sapient. Astute usually is used in a positive sense to mean showing keen intelligence and a shrewd ability to protect one's interests or avoid being deceived. An astute investor, an astute negotiator, an astute observer of human behavior. Occasionally it has the negative suggestion of clever in a cunning or self-serving way, as an astute self-promoter, an astute political operator. Word 4. Neophyte. Neophyte. A beginner, novice, amateur, tyro. Specifically, a new member of or convert to a religion. There are several interesting words for various types of inexperienced persons. The word tyro, spelled Tyro, comes from a Latin word meaning a recruit in the Roman army, a newly enlisted soldier. Tyro is used today to mean a raw beginner, one who may be eager to learn but who is utterly incompetent. The word amateur comes from the Latin amare, to love. By derivation, an amateur is a person who does something for the love of it, rather than for money. An amateur may or may not be skilled, but the word often implies a lower level of competence than expert or professional. A dilettante, spelled Dillettante, is an amateur practitioner of an art, such as music, painting, acting, dancing, or literary composition. Dilettante is often used disparagingly of someone who dabbles in something and lacks the serious discipline necessary to excel. Like tyro, both novice and neophyte refer to a person just starting out at something. Tyro emphasizes the beginner's incompetence. Novice emphasizes the beginner's inexperience. And neophyte emphasizes the beginner's enthusiasm. Word 5. Enigma. Enigma. A mystery, puzzle, riddle, perplexing problem, something or someone hard to understand or explain. Anything baffling, inexplicable, or inscrutable may be described as an enigma. She is an enigma to me. Their motives are still an enigma. The case presents us with one enigma. Word 6. Credence. Credence. Belief, acceptance, especially belief in a published report or acceptance of another's opinion or testimony. In recent years, many medical studies have shown that reducing fat intake can help prevent heart disease, and there is now widespread credence among the public that a low-fat diet is more healthful. The words credence, creed, credible, and credulous all come from the Latin credere, to believe. Credible means believable, and credulous means willing to believe without questioning. Creed, word 21 of Level 1, refers to a declared belief or formal set of opinions. Conservatism is his creed. Credence refers to belief itself, to acceptance of something stated or heard. It is dangerous to give credence to gossip. Credence is often used with the verbs to give or lend. She gave no credence to their claims. His neat appearance and confident manner lent credence to his story. Word 7. Venerate. Venerate. To respect deeply, revere, regard with awe and adoration. In a strict sense, to venerate means to regard as holy or sacred. To revere means to regard with great respect and honor. We revere great leaders, thinkers, and artists. We venerate holy persons, sacred writings, and religious or moral principles. The adjective venerable, worthy of veneration, of being venerated, is more loosely applied. It is often used of something or someone old or long established. A venerable tradition is an old and deeply respected tradition. A venerable cause is long-standing and worthy of profound respect. 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 Word 8. Garrulous. Garrulous. Talkative, especially in a rambling, annoying, pointless, or long-winded way. Garrulous comes from the Latin garrire, to chatter, babble, talk in a rambling and tiresome way. In zoology, there is a genus of birds called garrulous, spelled Garrulus. This genus contains several of the common jays, which are known for their harsh, chattering call. Both by derivation and by association, garrulous means chattering like a jaybird. The garrulous person talks for the sake of talking, usually about trivial matters, and often babbles on when no one else is interested in listening. More difficult synonyms of garrulous include verbose, word 30 of level 2, loquacious, voluble, and prolix. Antonyms of garrulous include reserved, reticent, taciturn, word 2 of level 3, and laconic, word 18 of level 3. Word 9. Trenchant. Trenchant. Keen, penetrating, vigorously effective, sharp and to the point. Synonyms of trenchant include forceful, acute, and incisive. Incisive applies to expression that gets right to the point or penetrates the heart of the matter. Cutting and biting imply harsh or sarcastic expression that hurts the feelings. Trenchant, which comes from a French verb meaning to cut, suggests both the forcefulness of incisive and the sharp, painful implication of cutting and biting. A trenchant analysis is keen and vigorous. A trenchant style is sharp and clear. A trenchant remark displays penetrating insight and has the ability to wound. Word 10. Autonomous. Autonomous. Independent, self-governing, not under the control of something or someone else. Autonomous comes from the Greek autos, self, and nomos, law, and means literally self-ruling. From the Greek autos, self, comes the English combining form auto, A-U-T-O, which also means self. Auto appears in many English words, including autobiography, a story of oneself, of one's own life, autograph, one's own signature, automobile, literally a self-moving vehicle, automatic, literally self-thinking, done without conscious thought, and autocracy, not self-government but rule by oneself or one person, hence dictatorship, tyranny, despotism. Autonomy is self-government, independence. The heart is an autonomous organ. It functions by itself. An autonomous company is independent, not a subsidiary of another corporation. When the United States won its independence from Great Britain, it became an autonomous nation.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. Listen carefully to the following questions. After each one, decide whether the correct answer is yes or no. Does the Provident person save for a rainy day? Yes. Provident means thrifty, economical, saving or providing for future needs. Can you impute an error to carelessness? Yes. To impute means to charge or attribute, especially with a fault or misconduct. Lay the responsibility or blame upon. Would an astute observation point out the obvious? No, astute means shrewd, clever, perceptive, discerning. Is a neophyte experienced? No, a neophyte is a beginner, novice, amateur, tyro. Specifically, a new member of or convert to a religion. Is an enigma easy to understand? No, an enigma is a mystery, puzzle, riddle, perplexing problem, something or someone hard to understand or explain. Can an unsupported rumor gain the public's credence? Yes, credence means belief, acceptance, especially belief in a published report or acceptance of another's opinion. When you venerate something, do you criticize it? No, to venerate means to respect deeply, revere, regard with awe and adoration. Is a garrulous speaker charming and sophisticated? No, garrulous means talkative in a rambling, annoying, pointless, or long-winded way. Can trenchant humor be both sarcastic and insightful? Yes, trenchant means keen, penetrating, vigorously effective, sharp and to the point. Is an autonomous decision made independently? Yes, autonomous means independent, self-governing, not under the control of something or someone else. That concludes the review for this section.
Now let's forge ahead and learn the next 10 keywords in Level 4. Here they are. Word 11. Panacea. P-A-N-A-C-E-A. A cure-all, universal antidote, remedy for all diseases and difficulties. Panacea comes from the Greek pan, all, and akos, cure, and today retains its literal meaning, cure-all. From the same Greek pan, all, comes the English prefix pan, spelled P-A-N. This prefix appears in front of a number of English words. A panorama is literally a view all around. Pantheism, from the Greek theos, God, is the belief that all things are God, that God is universal. And a pantheon is a temple dedicated to all the gods, or all the gods worshipped by a given people. In current usage, pantheon may also mean any group of highly respected or revered persons. When novelist Toni Morrison won a Nobel Prize in 1993, she earned a place beside such esteemed writers as Ernest Hemingway, William Faulkner, and Mark Twain in the pantheon of American literature. You have probably heard the common phrase, a panacea for all ills. The expression is redundant because panacea by itself means a cure for all ills, a universal remedy. You may use panacea to mean either a cure-all for physical ailments or an antidote for worldly woes. His lawyer emphasized that filing for bankruptcy would not be a panacea for his financial troubles. Word 12. Ephemeral. E-P-H-E-M-E-R-A-L. Short-lived, passing, fleeting, lasting for a short time. Ephemeral comes from a Greek word meaning daily, lasting or living only for a day. Ephemeral is sometimes used in this literal sense, as in the phrase ephemeral literature, publications that come out every day, such as newspapers. Ephemeral literature is opposed to periodical literature, which refers to anything published periodically, weekly, monthly, and so on. In fact, the familiar word journalism, by derivation, means ephemeral literature, writing that pertains to the events of the day. Journalism and journal come from the French jour, day, as in the restaurant menu item soupe du jour, soup of the day. Thus, the common expression daily journal is redundant, for by derivation, journal means something written or published each day. Today, the word ephemeral is most often used in a general sense, to mean conspicuously brief in duration. Ephemeral ideas are popular for only a brief while. The jokes of late-night TV comedians are ephemeral, here today and gone tomorrow. An ephemeral trend in the economy or in fashion is one that passes swiftly away. More difficult synonyms of ephemeral include transitory, evanescent, fugitive, and fugacious. For more on these words, review the discussion of transient, word 31 of Level 2. Word 13. Onerous. O-N-E-R-O-U-S. Burdensome, troublesome, oppressive, hard to bear, difficult to accomplish or endure. An onerous task, an onerous assignment. Onerous comes from the Latin onus, a load, burden. Directly from the Latin comes the English word onus, O-N-U-S, a burden, obligation, especially a disagreeable responsibility. Onerous means like an onus, and therefore burdensome, troublesome, difficult to accomplish or endure. Word 14. Laity. L-A-I-T-Y. Non-professionals, lay people collectively. All the people outside of a given profession or specialized field. The adjective lay, spelled L-A-Y, means non-professional, not belonging to a particular profession. A lay opinion of a legal case is an opinion from someone who is not a lawyer or a judge. A lay diagnosis of a disease is a diagnosis proffered by someone who is not a medical professional. In its original and most precise sense, laity refers to all who do not belong to the clergy, to religious worshippers in general. Today, laity may be used either in this way or to mean those who do not belong to a given profession. Word 15. Pungent. P-U-N-G-E-N-T. Sharp, penetrating, biting, acrid, caustic. Pungent comes from the same Latin source as poignant and expunge, the Latin pungere, to pierce, prick. Pungent may refer to a literal piercing, to that which is sharp to the sense of taste or smell. Or it may refer to a figurative piercing, to that which penetrates the mind or emotions. A pungent sauce is sharp to the taste, perhaps spicy, sour, or bitter. A pungent critique, or pungent humor, is sharp and sometimes bitterly worded. It penetrates the mind. Word 16. Prosaic. Prosaic. Dull, ordinary, uninteresting, unimaginative. Synonyms of prosaic include commonplace, humdrum, tedious, dry, stale, mediocre, and matter-of-fact. And those are only the prosaic synonyms of prosaic. More difficult and interesting synonyms include insipid, which means tasteless, bland, pedestrian, vapid, V-A-P-I-D, and jejune, J-E-J-U-N-E. Prosaic may be used literally to mean consisting of prose or of the nature of prose, as opposed to poetry. Because poetry is considered lovely and lyrical, and prose is considered uninteresting and unimaginative, prosaic has come to be used figuratively to mean dull and ordinary. Today, prosaic is most often used in this figurative sense. A prosaic performance is mediocre. A prosaic style is dry and stale. A prosaic explanation is humdrum, tedious, or matter-of-fact. Word 17. Charlatan. C-H-A-R-L-A-T-A-N. A fake, quack, impostor, fraud, humbug. Specifically, a person who pretends to have a special skill or knowledge. The words charlatan and mountebank are close in meaning and were once synonymous. Mountebank, spelled M-O-U-N-T-E-B-A-N-K, comes from the Italian montambanco, one who gets up on a bench. By derivation, a mountebank is a person who mounts a bench or platform and delivers a flamboyant sales pitch to attract customers and hawk his wares. In its earliest sense, a charlatan was a huckster who made elaborate and fraudulent claims about his merchandise. In olden days, charlatans and mountebanks would travel about, selling trinkets, relics, and panaceas. They were the proverbial snake oil salesmen. Since the early 19th century, however, the word charlatan has been used to mean a fake or a quack, someone who pretends to have a special skill or knowledge and who covers up the fraud with an elaborate and sometimes intimidating verbal display. In The Wizard of Oz, the wizard is a classic example of a charlatan. Today, charlatans and mountebanks continue to thrive not only at carnivals and on the street corner, but in the office and the boardroom as well. They're the ones who are always giving you the glad hand and handing you a line of bull. The difference between them is that the mountebank makes an impressive verbal display in an attempt to sell you a bill of goods, while the charlatan makes an impressive verbal display to hide the fact that he doesn't have the skill or knowledge he claims to possess. Word 18. Perfunctory. P-E-R-F-U-N-C-T-O-R-Y. Mechanical, routine, listless, done merely as a duty, performed in an indifferent, half-hearted, superficial, and often careless way, without interest or enthusiasm. Perfunctory comes from a Latin verb meaning to get through, be done with. The perfunctory worker is just trying to get through doing the job. The perfunctory teacher just wants to be done with the lesson. A perfunctory speech is mechanical, routine, delivered in a half-hearted, listless manner. Word 19. Morass. M-O-R-A-S-S. ASS. Literally a swamp, marsh, bog. Figuratively, something that traps, confines, or confuses. A sticky situation or troublesome state of affairs. There was always a morass of paperwork on his desk. She penetrated the morass of red tape at City Hall. Some people consider middle age the morass of life. The project got bogged down in a morass of trivial details. Word 20. Sophistry. SOPHISTRY. Deceptive reasoning. Subtle and misleading argument. Voters today want candidates who address the issues, not ones who engage in mudslinging and sophistry. Sophistry comes ultimately from the Greek sophos, clever, wise, the source also of the word sophisticated. The corresponding adjective is sophistic or sophistical. In ancient Greece, the sophists, spelled with a capital S, were teachers of rhetoric, politics, and philosophy, who were notorious for their deceptive and over-subtle method of argumentation. The sophists eventually came into contempt for accepting payment for their instruction. The word sophistry retains the stigma imputed to the clever sophist so long ago. Today, sophistry refers to speech or writing that is clever and plausible, but marred by false or deceptive reasoning.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. Listen carefully to the following statements and decide whether each one is true or false. There is no such thing as a panacea for the world's troubles. True. A panacea is a cure-all, universal antidote, remedy for all diseases and difficulties. An ephemeral comment lingers in your mind. False. Ephemeral means short-lived, passing, fleeting, lasting for a short time. An onerous job is interesting and enjoyable. False. Onerous means burdensome, troublesome, oppressive, hard to bear, difficult to accomplish or endure. To a doctor, lawyers and engineers are members of the laity. True, laity means all people outside of a given profession or specialized field, non-professionals. Pungent food is mild and bland. False. Pungent means sharp, penetrating, biting, acrid. A prosaic story is original and lively. False. Prosaic means dull, ordinary, uninteresting, unimaginative. A charlatan is capable, sincere, and reliable. False. A charlatan is a fake, quack, impostor, fraud, a person who pretends to have a special skill or knowledge. When an employee's work is perfunctory, it's outstanding. False. Perfunctory means mechanical, routine, listless, done without interest or enthusiasm, performed in an indifferent, half-hearted, superficial, and often careless way. When you're in a morass, you are swamped, stuck, or confused. True. Literally, a morass is a swamp, marsh, bog. Figuratively, a morass is something that traps, confines, or confuses, a sticky situation or troublesome state of affairs. A speaker who is adept at sophistry may be a charlatan. True. Sophistry is deceptive reasoning, subtle and misleading argument. That concludes the review for this section.
Up to this point in the Verbal Advantage program, we have examined a number of specific questions of usage. Now I'd like to take a few minutes to explore the concept of usage itself. Usage, like politics, is a passionate and controversial subject. Any discussion of it is bound to bring out the prejudices of all involved. Everyone, it seems, has an opinion about how words should or should not be used, and like most opinions, some are more logical and sensible than others. Some people, for instance, embrace a do-as-you-please policy about language. They say, as long as we communicate, what difference does it make? Others maintain that anyone who has scruples about usage wants to standardize the language and is opposed to change. They believe that change is evidence that the language is living and growing. Thus, all change must be good. The most adamant among this group become self-appointed advocates of change, and whenever someone questions a particular change, they cry out that no one has the right to tamper with this natural evolutionary process. On the other side of the issue are the people who insist that rules are rules, tradition is tradition, and that any deviation from what should be or what has always been is yet another sign that the language is going down the tubes. These folks are the self-appointed guardians of the mother tongue. The do-as-you-please, language must change folks constitute the permissive party. Permissivists don't make value judgments about usage because they believe it's undemocratic. Of course, they teach their children the difference between good and bad manners, and when driving, they obey the rules of the road. But for some reason, when it comes to language, they believe it's unfair to insist that there is such a thing as right and wrong. The rules are rules people constitute the purist party. Purists are cruel, grammar-worshipping taskmasters, devoted to upholding inflexible standards and imposing them on everyone else. They cling obstinately to the ways of the past and revel in telling the rest of us to tuck in our verbal shirt-tails. Somewhere between these two extremes are the moderates, who maintain that change is inevitable, but not always for the better. These people believe that each case must be considered individually, and wherever possible and reasonable, standards should be upheld, distinctions should be drawn, and the integrity of the language should be preserved. As you may have guessed by now, I consider myself a moderate purist. I don't believe all change is good and that anything goes, but I also don't believe that rules are rules and that the English language is doomed because people aren't observing them. In short, I am neither a Humpty Dumpty nor a Miss Thistlebottom. Allow me to explain those terms. In Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking-Glass, the sequel to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Alice and Humpty Dumpty have a conversation in which she criticizes how the Eggman uses a certain word. When I use a word, Humpty Dumpty chides her, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. The question is, says Alice, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, cries Humpty Dumpty, which is to be master, that's all. To be master or not to be master, and what kind of master to be? These are indeed the questions. Humpty is clearly heading for a fall if he thinks he controls the meanings of words and can use them any way he likes. On the other hand, anyone who believes usage is fixed and that the rules never change is equally as cracked. The caricature of this hidebound type is Miss Thistlebottom, the creation of the late Theodore M. Bernstein, the distinguished editor who for many years wrote a column called Watch Your Language for the New York Times. Miss Thistlebottom is the ruler-wielding schoolmarm of your childhood nightmares, the evil exponent of English grammar who preached about declining standards, plucked prepositions from the ends of your sentences, gnashed her teeth when you said ain't, and cuffed your ears for using double negatives like, I don't know nothin'. But with her sanctimonious adherence to rules, Miss Thistlebottom instilled in you as many falsehoods and as much confusion as the empty-headed Humpty Dumpty would have had he been your instructor. Clearly, what is needed in any debate about usage is a compromise between the ideological extremes of Miss Thistlebottom and Humpty Dumpty. We need to become more aware of how words are actually used and at the same time improve our understanding of how they are best used. And we need to draw a distinction between usage and abusage, one based as much upon what seems natural as upon what most people consider correct. That is a difficult row to hoe, for it means we must resist being arbitrary and instead investigate each issue and decide for ourselves. It means each of us must rise above the temptation to make snap judgments and become more knowledgeable and scrupulous users of the language. So how the heck do I do that, you're wondering? How do I become a scrupulous user of the language? Don't worry, it's not as daunting as it seems. There's plenty of help out there if you want it, and the first step is to find out where to look for it and what to expect. Advice on usage falls into one of two categories, either prescriptive or descriptive. Let's start with the latter term. When you open a dictionary, you are looking at a descriptive document. By that, I mean the dictionary is a description of the words of a language at a given time. Dictionary editors, who are also called lexicographers, try to make their word books objective records of the language. As they see it, their job is not to make judgments, but to hold up a mirror to the language and show you its reflection. The dictionary gives you the facts, and then you decide how you want to interpret them. That's all fine and dandy. However, what the dictionary doesn't tell you is how you can use words with subtlety and style, and it doesn't teach you what distinguishes the good writers and speakers from the bad. A dictionary contains almost everything you need to know about words, except how to use them effectively. You could read the entire book and still be unable to create a dynamic sentence. And you could learn 100 words a week, but if you have no idea what they connote or how to use them accurately, you will have no way of judging whether your usage is cultivated or crass. That is where prescriptive advice can help you. To prescribe is to set down as a rule or direction, not to lay down an arbitrary law, but to clarify what works and expose what does not. To use the lingo of business, the prescriptive approach takes the words out of the warehouse of the dictionary, puts them on the open market, and then hands us a sales report. Are these words useful? Do they do what they were made to do? Can they compete with what's already on the shelf? The business of usage requires good management and constant evaluation, and a wise prescriptivist, like a smart consultant, can tell you which verbal moves will succeed and which will lead to ruin. The proper goal of the prescriptive approach is not to dictate, but to evaluate, not to cavil, but to rectify, not to condemn, but to ameliorate. Verbal advantage will help you clean up your diction and clarify many nebulous distinctions, but I urge you to build on what you learn here by exploring the works of some of the century's best commentators on style. A short list of them would include H. W. Fowler, Bergen Evans, William Strunk and E. B. White, Wilson Follett, Jacques Barzun, Theodore Bernstein, Edward D. Johnson, William and Mary Morris, J. N. Hook, James J. Kilpatrick, William Zinser, and William Safire. These are some of the experts who have enlightened me, and much of the advice I am sharing with you in this program I have learned from them. To sum up, the way you use words makes a telling statement about the kind of person you are. And if you want your words to manifest intelligence and confidence, then along with building your vocabulary, you must make good usage a priority. I should also point out that the difference between building your vocabulary and improving your usage is like the difference between buying a piano and knowing how to play it. Possessing the instrument of language does not automatically ensure that you will be able to make music with it. Reading, using your dictionary, and listening to Verbal Advantage will give you the linguistic tools you need to tackle the job of communication. But to refine your skill with those tools, you will need to heed the advice of the distinguished author, historian, and professor Jacques Barzun. In his book, Simple and Direct, Barzun writes that the price of learning to use words is the development of an acute self-consciousness. Nor is it enough to pay attention to words only when you face the task of writing. That is like playing the violin only on the night of the concert. You must attend to words when you read, when you speak, when others speak. Words must become ever present in your waking life, an incessant concern, like color and design if the graphic arts matter to you, or pitch and rhythm if it is music, or speed and form if it is athletics. Words, in short, must be there, not unseen and unheard, as they probably are and have been up to now. And with that piece of priceless advice, let's return now to the Verbal Advantage vocabulary and discuss 10 more keywords. Word 21. Prolific. Prolific. Fruitful, fertile, productive. Antonyms of prolific include unproductive, barren, sterile, impotent, and effete. Effete. Prolific comes from a Latin word meaning offspring, children, progeny. Prolific may mean producing many offspring or much fruit, as a prolific family or a prolific orchard. It may also mean producing many products of the mind, as a prolific writer, a prolific composer. A prolific worker is a productive worker, one whose labor bears much fruit. A prolific period is a fruitful period, one marked by inventiveness and productivity. Word 22. Mundane. Mundane. Of the world, worldly, earthly. Material as distinguished from spiritual. Synonyms of mundane include terrestrial, temporal, and secular. An unusual and literary synonym is sublunary, sublunary. Sublunary means literally beneath the moon, and so of the world. Sublunary beings are creatures who abide on earth. Antonyms of mundane include lofty, heavenly, sublime, celestial, ethereal, and extraterrestrial, which means literally beyond the earth. Mundane is often used today to mean ordinary, humdrum, commonplace, banal, unimaginative, prosaic. All current dictionaries list this meaning, but some commentators on usage object to it. They argue that mundane's specific meaning should be protected, and the word should not be lumped with the many other words that mean ordinary and dull. It is a criticism I would advise you not to take lightly. Jacques Barzun offers this sentence as an example of the debasement of mundane. A mundane sex life can be compared to a TV dinner, but it's not a gourmet banquet. According to Barzun, sex life of whatever kind is inescapably mundane, and so is a gourmet banquet. In strict usage, mundane is reserved for things that are worldly as opposed to heavenly, material as opposed to spiritual, secular as opposed to religious. Mundane affairs are worldly affairs, not ordinary affairs. Mundane writing is not unimaginative or prosaic, it is concerned with worldly matters. Business is by nature mundane because it deals with concrete material things rather than nebulous spiritual values. Politics is also mundane because it focuses on the issues and problems of the world. The world. The world. The world. the world, the world, the world, the world, the world, the world. Word 23. Myriad. M-Y-R-I-A-D. Countless, innumerable, infinite, consisting of a great or indefinite number. Originally, the noun a myriad specified 10,000. In ancient Greece, a myriad was a military division composed of 10,000 soldiers. Today, the noun myriad is most often used to mean a great or indefinite number, as a myriad of troubles, a myriad of details to attend to. The adjective myriad means countless, innumerable, infinite, consisting of a great or indefinite number. On a clear night, you can see myriad stars twinkling in the sky. A chief executive officer has myriad responsibilities. Word 24. Dissident. D-I-S-S-I-D-E-N-T. Disagreeing, disaffected, dissenting, nonconformist. Dissident comes from the Latin dis, apart, and sedere, to sit, and by derivation means to sit apart, hence to withdraw one's approval or belief, disagree. The noun a dissident refers to a person who disagrees with a prevailing opinion, method, or doctrine. The word is commonly used today in politics and journalism of someone who opposes the policies and practices of his government. The adjective dissident refers to the nonconforming and disaffected attitude of the dissident. A dissident opinion expresses disagreement. It does not conform to accepted opinion. Dissident activities are activities undertaken in opposition to a prevailing doctrine or authority. Word 25. Laudable. L-A-U-D-A-B-L-E. Praiseworthy, commendable, worthy of approval or admiration. Synonyms of laudable include meritorious and estimable. Antonyms of laudable include contemptible, deplorable, and ignominious. The verb to laud, spelled L-A-U-D, means to praise, commend, extol. That's E-X-T-O-L. The adjective laudable means commendable, worthy of praise. Laudable actions, laudable motives, and laudable goals all are praiseworthy, commendable, deserving of approval or admiration. In Macbeth, Shakespeare writes, "I am in this earthly world, where to do harm is often laudable, to do good sometime accounted dangerous folly." Word 26. Inimitable. I-N-I-M-I-T-A-B-L-E. Unable to be imitated, copied, or reproduced. Beyond compare. Synonyms of inimitable include matchless, unrivaled, peerless, unparalleled, and surpassing. The prefix in, often means in or into, as in the words inhale, to breathe in, ingrain, to rub in, fix in the mind, and ingress, the way in, the entrance. However, it is just as often privative. That is, it deprives or takes away the meaning of the word to which it is affixed. Like the prefix un, the prefix in often means not, as in the words informal, not formal, inaudible, not audible, unable to be heard, and injustice, something that is not fair or just. Our keyword, inimitable, combines this privative prefix in with the somewhat unusual word imitable, able to be imitated, to mean not able to be imitated. You may use inimitable to describe anything that is one of a kind, individual, unique. An inimitable style cannot be imitated or copied. An inimitable performance is unrivaled, incomparable. An inimitable achievement surpasses all other achievements. It is matchless, beyond compare. Word 27. Jaded. Jaded. Worn out, tired, fatigued, weary, exhausted. Specifically, worn out by overwork or overindulgence. One meaning of the noun a jade is a worn-out or broken-down horse, a nag. The verb to jade means to be or become like a worn-out or broken-down horse. The adjective jaded means like that broken-down horse, specifically worn out from overwork or overindulgence. When you drive your mind too hard or abuse your body, you become jaded. But you can also become jaded from too much of a good thing, as their lovemaking left him jaded. In current usage, jaded often suggests weariness accompanied by an insensitivity or immunity to something unpleasant. Children jaded by abuse. Seeing the consequences of so much violent crime had left the detective jaded. Word 28. Myopic. M-Y-O-P-I-C. Short-sighted. Not able to see the long-range picture. Having a narrow or circumscribed view. Lacking discernment, foresight, or perspective. Synonyms of myopic include narrow-minded, purblind, and obtuse. Antonyms of myopic include broad-minded, liberal, tolerant, Catholic, with a small c, and latitudinarian. The adjective myopic comes from the noun myopia, the common medical disorder known as nearsightedness. In its literal sense, myopic means nearsighted, affected with myopia. In its figurative sense, myopic suggests mental nearsightedness, a lack of long-range vision, a mental outlook that is limited or narrow. The myopic person lacks perspective and foresight. He can't see the big picture. A myopic approach to solving a problem is short-sighted. It lacks imagination and does not address long-term needs or goals. A myopic opinion is narrow-minded and prejudiced. It reflects only what the person who expresses it wants to see. The words purblind, obtuse, and myopic are close in meaning. Purblind, P-U-R-B-L-I-N-D, means partly blind, dim-sighted. Like myopic, purblind may be used literally to mean half-blind, or figuratively to mean lacking insight or imagination. Obtuse, O-B-T-U-S-E, comes from a Latin word meaning dull, blunt, and in modern usage, obtuse is used to mean mentally dull, slow to recognize or understand something. Myopic means short-sighted, having a limited perspective or narrow view. Word 29. Demonstrable. D-E-M-O-N-S-T-R-A-B-L-E. Capable of being demonstrated, able to be proved. Demonstrable is the noun corresponding to the verb to demonstrate. Demonstrable facts can be demonstrated, presented clearly, and shown to be true. A demonstrable statement or opinion is one that can be proved. Because that which is demonstrable can be demonstrated or proved, The word has also come to be used to mean obvious, apparent, self-evident, as in a demonstrable liar, a demonstrable fool. When Joe asked Sheila if she would have dinner with him, she took it as a sign of his demonstrable interest in her. Word 30. Callow. C-A-L-L-O-W. Immature, inexperienced, unsophisticated, green, naive, lacking experience in and knowledge of the world. Callow comes from a Middle English word meaning bald, and the word was formerly used of very young birds to mean without feathers, unfledged. Today, both callow and the word fledgling are used of persons, behavior, or things that are immature or inexperienced. A fledgling is a young bird that has just acquired its feathers and is learning to fly. From that original sense, fledgling has come to refer either to a young and inexperienced person or to something that is just getting off the ground, as a fledgling enterprise. Callow suggests an immaturity or inexperience manifested by a lack of sophistication. People who are callow know little of the ways of the world. They are green, still wet behind the ears. Because callow means immature, it sometimes also suggests childishness or foolishness. For example, a callow remark may be not only unsophisticated but downright silly. Synonyms of callow in this unfavorable sense include juvenile, sophomoric, and puerile, P-U-E-R-I-L-E.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. This time, I'm going to give you 2 words, and you decide if they are synonyms or antonyms. Are you ready? Here we go. Prolific and barren are antonyms. Prolific means fruitful, fertile, productive. Earthly and mundane are synonyms. Mundane means of the world, earthly, material as distinguished from spiritual. Innumerable and myriad are synonyms. Myriad means countless, innumerable, infinite, consisting of a great or indefinite number. Dissident and conforming are antonyms. Dissident means disagreeing, disaffected, dissenting, nonconformist. Laudable and deplorable are antonyms. Deplorable means wretched, grievous, lamentable, worthy of severe disapproval. Laudable means praiseworthy, commendable, worthy of approval or admiration. Matchless and inimitable are synonyms. Inimitable means unable to be imitated, copied, or reproduced. Matchless, peerless, beyond compare. Exhausted and jaded are synonyms. Jaded means worn out by overwork or overindulgence, tired, fatigued, weary, exhausted. Short-sighted and myopic are synonyms. Myopic means not able to see the long-range picture, having a narrow or circumscribed view, short-sighted. Demonstrable and unverifiable are antonyms. Unverifiable means unable to be tested or proved true. Demonstrable means capable of being demonstrated or proved. Callow and inexperienced are synonyms. Callow means immature, inexperienced, unsophisticated. That concludes the review for this section. Did you remember to keep track of your answers and calculate your score?
It's time now to take a break from the Verbal Advantage vocabulary for another Word to the Wise, in which I expose the linguistic errors that plague many educated adults. This cautionary tale of good grammar gone awry is called Just Between Us. This one's for you and me. Here's the question I'd like you to consider. Why is it that so many people insist on using the nominative rather than the objective case with the prepositions for and between? Nominative? Objective? What the heck is he talking about, you're thinking? All right, I'll put it in plain English. Why do people say for you and between you and I when good grammar requires for you and me and between you and me? Believe me, this is not an error the ordinary person makes. It's a mistake committed almost exclusively by educated folks who ought to know better. Talk to any Joe Blow on the street and I'll bet he'll say, just between you and me, pal, there's something screwy going on at City Hall. Or sit down next to him at a bar and he'll say to the bartender, "Hey Mac, how's about a round for my friend and me?" But give him a college degree, a professional position, and a house in the suburbs, and by golly, the next minute you'll hear, "Let's keep this information between you and I," or "I think this is a good investment for you and I." So just between you and me, why is it that so many upwardly mobile types say just between you and I? Did their 6th grade teachers give them a demerit for saying it's me instead of it is I? Did their mothers dock their allowance for telling a friend you and me should go out and play? Whatever the reason, if you are one of the many who have graduated from the unpretentious and proper just between you and me to the over-refined pinky-in-the-air erroneousness of just between you and I, it's high time to get re-educated, or de-educated as the case may be. In The Careful Writer, Theodore Bernstein says that uncomprehending souls who have heard strictures about "it is me" tend to think of me as a naughty word, particularly when it is associated with you, which they mistake for a nominative case. Thinking they are leaning over backward to be correct, they somersault onto their faces and come up with between you and I. Think of the nominative case as being the subject of a sentence. In the sentence, "I am going," I is the subject, and in the nominative case. In the sentence, "You and I are going," you and I is a compound subject, and both words are in the nominative case. In the sentence, "It is for you," it is now the subject, and you is in the objective case. In the sentence, "It's for you and me," the subject is still it, and you and me are in the objective case. The problem is caused by the word you, which can be either nominative or objective, but which in our misguided attempt to be proper, we tend to treat as a nominative. If all this grammar is so much linguistic jargon to your ear, just remember this rule of thumb. Whenever something is between someone else and you, or for someone else and you, say me, not I. There's no difference between you and me. The boss had only the highest praise for Pamela, Greg, and me. Or try this little trick. Eliminate the other people in the sentence and see how it sounds. If you're about to say, "It's for him and I," take out the him, and you'll hear that "it's for I" sounds wrong, which it is. I know you would never say, "That's for I, not her," so take care to say, "That's for her and me." If you observe this rule, you will never sound unnatural or pretentious, and that's my guarantee, just between you and me.